Hello and welcome back with season 2. Wow, I feel like I have changed so much in the last year with launching the How We Get Thru app and of course this podcast. And this season is going to feel a little bit different, a little more expansive, as I have really meaningful chats with healers that are in and outside of the therapy room. This, of course, has come from my own healing and curiosity, so thank you guys so much for being here with me and growing alongside me. Okay, let's introduce our first guest, Abigail Suazo, a beautiful human with a deep soul, and she is a trauma-informed hypnotherapist that helps people feel empowered with clarity and self-awareness through energy work and hypnotherapy. Listen in as we discover how self-love can happen when we can lean into the discomfort within our relationships and how hypnotherapy can help you through that. If you're new here, you're listening to the How We Get Thru podcast, a place for you to feel connected through deep and meaningful conversations with healers from all over the world. I'm your host, Jen, a licensed therapist and founder and CEO of the How We Get Thru app. And my mission is to bring you affordable and diverse therapy resources to help you get through the hard stuff, all in one place and at your own pace. Welcome back to the How We Get Thru community. Welcome back to the How We Get Thru podcast. Today is a really special episode. We have Abigail Suazo, who is a certified hypnotherapist and a trauma-informed therapist. And I am so excited to talk to you because I think in my own journey, I've been really curious about hypnotherapy. So I'm excited to where we get to today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm excited about the different topics that we're going to dive into. Just thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Yay. Okay, so we like to start a show off with a mental health myth, and we would love to know yours because I'm sure there's a ton.
Where do I begin?
Right.
Yeah, there's a whole list, I think, of these type of myths, right? But I think the one that I see often in the sessions that I do is people ask me, do I have to be completely healed in order to enter in through another romantic relationship? Like, should I just wait? Is this, that is a touch and go question, right? Because I think that you got to understand yourself first. But no, technically you don't. We learn in connection. We grow in connection. We understand what boundaries look like when we journey with someone. We understand what standards are when we journey with someone. We understand worthiness when we journey with someone. Self-respect, love, all of these things. And you can learn and study and go through sessions as much as you want, but you got to have the practicality. You got to have the hands-on, experience as well. So yeah, I'd say that one. That's like right up the top.
Yeah, I love that. Like we learn in connection. And I'm curious, do you see more of this in women? Like women are kind of questioning their own healing or like, what's wrong with me? Or am I healed enough?
Yeah, but believe it or not, I get some male clients that are asking this as well.
Wow.
They're like, I keep repeating the same thing and I just don't understand like why this continues to happen to me. And so if that is the case, right, if there is a repetitiveness of looped patterns and you're noticing that particular things that stem, especially from those formative years, as oftentimes it's just so correlated to trauma-based experiences with our caregivers, then yes, I would take a moment just to assess and sort of create an inventory of what happened in this previous relationship, in these other ones that you've journeyed in through. And you'll more than likely begin to see the thread of commonality in each and every single one. You're just like, oh, this is codependency. Oh, this is whatever. And I think, when you have someone that is experienced and that has that kind of knowledge that can also assist you in identifying these different patterns, it helps. But for you yourself, if it's a looped, all these relationships, always doing the same thing. But yeah, women come to me often, is it okay? Should I? I don't know. It's been 2 years. I don't know if I'm ready. And I'm like, you're ready.
Yeah. And I think what you're kind of speaking to is a fear component too, where we can kind of maybe project that like, oh, I need to be more healed or I'm just not ready. And yes. And what would it look like to face that fear of like not quote unquote being ready? Like, is that what is actually blocking you from this experience?
That's it exactly. And oftentimes, you said it so beautifully, this deep-seated fear that we have of vulnerability, of entering in and through that with someone in connection. And really, that's what it's about, right? You know, we're here to assist one another as we're journeying in this way. But we get stuck in the romantic notions of it. And that's just so surface level. That's the sugar, that's the candy, you know, part of connection, which is beautiful. But when you're going down to the nitty gritty of the depths of connection, you're looking at things that, you know, you're going to be privy to from another person. And you're going to be witnessing aspects of yourself being revealed in this connection. You got to be ready for that. You got to be ready, you know, to be exposed and be a willing participant, you know, to let that aspect of yourself be revealed in a safe container.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking about my own life and experience in that. And I feel like I've really like blown the lid on depth this last year and really serving my relationships of like, oh yeah, I'm vulnerable. I'm blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I haven't been. Like, I haven't been fully me. I haven't been in this like true essence of self in the vulnerability for a long time. And so it is like, you know, and I'm in a relationship. So it is those honest conversations of, I think that self-awareness piece that is so scary, but also so freeing at the same time. Like being on the other side of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so terrifying. And I can't go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about safety in heart-centered connections. And I'm such a big advocate and proponent of that. If you are going to journey with someone, make sure that you feel safe. You know what I mean? Make sure that your heart feels safe, that your mind feels safe, that your body feels safe. There's nothing like someone holding that sort of container and you being able to provide that kind of container for someone else, for them to just be authentically themselves, for them to be their goofy self, for them to be their nerdy self, for them to be, you know, their loud self, for them to be their introverted self, whatever that looks like. There is no right or wrong here. We're all very human, you know, and the human expression is such a beautiful tapestry of all sorts of emotion and personality and, you know, identity. Yeah.
And I think too, there's an aspect of allowing yourself. And I think that's what it was for me is like, can I allow myself to drop into my real nature, to my real feelings, to my real vulnerability, even if the other container can't or won't or whatever it is. And so that was also a hard thing is like how you're growing in this depth. And if you're in a relationship, how that's shifted for you. So it brings us back to like, no, you don't have to be in a relationship, but you can be in a relationship because there isn't like this one size fits all kind of thing.
That's it exactly. You know, I was married for 15 years. And when I met my son's father, man, I wasn't ready.
No.
Like there was no part of me that was ready for that journey.
Yeah, exactly.
There was no part of me that was ready for that journey, you know, but we looked at each other and we said, yeah, like this is, let's take a leap. Let's take a dive. Man, talk about going to, you know, getting your master's, getting your PhD in relationship. You know, that connection continues to teach me so much about myself, about partnership, about different connections in my life, you know, even how I relate to my son, you know, who's now 12. It's just,
wow.
If you allow yourself, and that's a big part, if you allow yourself, you can witness growth in every single connection in your life, even the ones that are the most challenging. I actually say lean into those the most because that is your master's course. That is your master's course with boundaries, obviously, and nothing that is of self-harm or, you know, harmful to you. But these challenging individuals come and they're like, I have my whole set of things that I'm here to show you about this, you know? Yeah.
And so when you say lean in, like, what can that practically look like or hypothetically, like, because I you know, it's like that mirroring moment where they're mirroring something within us.
Yeah.
How does one do that?
It took me a while to figure this one out because I have had a tendency to be very avoidant when it comes to anything that feels like I'm being attacked. So the moment that I feel like someone's attacking me, I just like ghost. I used to stonewall a little bit and just like disappear. Yeah. Right. And thank God for growth and healing. That doesn't happen anymore. Now I sit with the conversation because they're not my enemy. They're trying to teach me something, right?
Ooh.
And they're trying to show me something. And I would place them in the seat of the villain just because of my wounded perspective. And these limitations in viewpoint, will do that and it makes sense. It makes sense why. But I think a perfect example would be, so my son's father would often present kind of like, he has this kind of personality where he's very honest, and the zero filter. He's just like, this is the facts and this is how it is and da-da-da. And it reminded me of my parents a lot. A lot, where they would just come and be like, and this is the point, and this is the thing, and this is what you're doing wrong. Boom, 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 boom. And that, man, it feels like daggers to my heart because I'm just trying to be the best person I possibly can. So this is very layered, obviously.
Yeah.
So with that particular connection, what I learned actually eases everything out better is when I would just listen. And I just gave him the space to get it all out. I was like, and he wasn't yelling, he wasn't being erratic. He was genuinely just being extremely logical. And I was like, okay. So I just sat with it. And I always give myself the 24-hour rule. If someone sends something that feels triggering, I give it 24 hours for me to sit with my heart before reacting. If it doesn't require an immediate response, I don't want to react because I can throw flames there. I can burn things out. And so I would sit for 24 hours, let it just land. Sit with my heart, take a moment, take a breath. And I'm like, okay, let me look at it from his perspective. Okay, now let me bring it back to me. Is what he's saying actually true? Do I resonate with this message? Does this actually land with me? Can I learn from this? Is there anything that I can take from this and grow? Right? And now our conversations became very different. It was no longer about pointing the finger. No, you said this and you meant it and you hurt me and you look what you did to me. Then it became more like, you know what? You're right. What you said, actually, you're calling me out and you're right. But here's just what's going on with me. And then just being open and clear. Man, our dynamic changed. Our son benefited from that. Our kid now understands how to communicate clearly. He's not afraid to open up his voice and just be like, hey, both of you, this is what's going on. And I love that he feels that safe. We all feel very safe in that kind of container because there's no more lies. There's no more avoidance. There's no more hiding. It doesn't feel like it's a victim and, I'm coming to get you. It's we're just growing together.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I've also learned that in the last year about that. And I think it's a good, if you feel stuck in your relationship or if you feel stuck in a pattern, a good question is to ask, in that mirroring moment, what is here for me? What is here for me to understand about me? And that, I think that's everything you're saying is that's where that growth is, where you can take the world as a reflection and be brave with that. Be, gather all of your fear, all of your insecurity, all the things and say, what's good here for me? What is really tender here for me? What is really sweet here for me? It doesn't always have to be hard because from those defenses, our sadness, our, inner child, all the stuff is I feel like I'm not seen here,
Yeah.
And when you can get to that self-awareness, and I love your example of the 24-hour rule, because it's we don't give ourselves enough space to sit with it. Even if we do react, I'm an ICB. I am cutthroat. So when you talk about that, I'm boom, daggers, you are dead to me. My whole family, my friends don't know that. My family, my mom, she's like, oh, geez, But again, born and bred for that, baby. I had to do that. And now I don't have to do that anymore because it doesn't work for me as well as it did, And so just that, giving yourself time to sit with something, to tolerate it, and ask yourself, what is here for me? Because we get into that cycle of blaming the other person, or, well, he's not doing this, or she's not doing that, or blah, 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 blah. And I think our children, for me anyway, have been the entryway into what the hell's happening with me. Because I don't like who I am when my daughter or son melts down, or something is being triggered in me. And so, it's hard work.
Yeah. It is. It's challenging work, because several things. There's so many things. God, I can listen to you talk like all day long.
Oh.
But you know, I often saw like I spent some time with my parents last year for a variety of reasons, but I was in Florida with them, and we had so many beautiful moments of connection. You know what I mean? Where I got to see genuinely where they are mentally, emotionally, heart, like everything, right? Even though physically they're 80 and in their 70s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're kids. And so there was this moment that my mom was expressing herself because she was feeling jealous about someone like that my dad was connecting with, right? And she was telling me and telling him, you know, like she was having a conversation with the family. But it was a beautiful, like what she was saying was really beautiful because she felt safe, right? And so I noticed something that they both have grown from, because in the past, my mom would just project it out. She's talking to you. She's there. She's there. But my mom then, she softened and she became a little girl in that moment. She became a little girl. She began to cry. And she goes, listen, this is why it's impacting me. And she actually began to detail out, you know, like the different things that were coming up. Then the beautiful part happened. My dad held her hand and he was like, you know what? You're right. Well, let's have a moment and you, me, and her are going to talk. And we're going to put up these boundaries, you know, basically is what he was saying. We're going to put up these boundaries. He's like, you're my wife and you're my queen. He was like, this is nothing. This is a friend. Like, this is a woman that goes to church with us. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a big deal, you know? And so it was great. They had the conversation. Everything got sorted out. No miscommunication. It was beautiful. I was like, you guys are growing. Like, I can't believe you guys are listening to the stuff I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
You hear me? I'm listening. You know, but it's similar to what you said. You know, when my son has these meltdowns, I just sit with it. I'll be honest with you. I'm so less reactive than I used to be these days. It's not like I don't still lose my stuff. You know what I mean? I definitely have moments, but I recently, you know, he had a moment where he was being really triggered because he felt like he couldn't catch up with schoolwork and there was a lot of pressure and just feeling a lot of stuff, and he just started to melt down. And we just sat there and I was like, yeah, get it out. You're right. Be upset right now. This is a good moment to be upset. Good moment to be angry. You're right. Yeah. Like, this is all valid. And he was just like, yeah, it is. You know, I started to let it all out, you know, and then after it was all done, it took like a good 10 minutes. I was like, all right, do you feel ready to talk about it? Like, is it cool? Like, could we chat for a moment? And he was like, okay, you know, and then everything came out, you know. I was like, look, where are you feeling the most pressure? Is it mom? Is it dad? Like, who's putting pressure on you? He was like, no, it's me. He was like, I just want to be really good. And I was like, why? What do you think really good means? And then we started peeling it all back.
Love that.
And then he had this aha moment. He was like, why am I fighting it so hard?
Yes. Oh, I love that.
It's wild, man, this journey.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Mine are 5 and 4. So when I get to 12, I
remember that age.
Oh my god!
I remember that age. I was married, but I felt like a single mom during that age, and it was tough. My son has high levels of ADHD, and so it's tough to regulate emotions because your brain's going everywhere. You know?
Yeah.
And, I understand, Mama. Oh my god, I would hug you right now.
I know. Yes,
I get it.
Yes, and it's almost like that beautiful story you told about your parents and about your son. It's like these kids come to teach us so much, you know, if we're open and receptive to it. And it can be this beautiful, really hard thing. And again, like, you don't need to be a mother to be taught that, but that goes back to that relational aspect that we can grow so much or choose not to, right? When we're in relationships, because it does activate certain things of us and calls us to say, hey, like, what is this right here? Because it doesn't feel good, or it's kind of sticky, or it doesn't have flow with it. Like, what is this for you? And then I also think, like, not taking over responsibility for people's reactions as well, which is another learning lesson in life.
Yeah, you get to decide. You know, I think that's some that people don't often get, because you can choose to get involved in someone's reaction. You know what I mean? And you can feel into what's a reaction and what's a response. You know, a reaction is going to feel very like I'm lunging at you. A response is going to be a conversation.
Yeah.
Even if it's angry, even if it's upset, it's going to be a conversation, and so you get to choose if you want to enter in through that or not.
Yeah.
Weird.
And I just learned that through my self-awareness.
I get it.
Or I was like, oh, I'm backtracking because of, I think this person's responding this way. And so I'm going to like hold yours more than mine, which is just the invisible life of my trauma.
No, I get it.
It's
I
happening.
get it. I used to feel like I'm very sensitive to people's micro reactions, right? So if you are no longer like texting me at a particular time, or if like there's a shift, that has happened, I could feel it like almost immediately. I pinpoint it. I'm like, something's going on.
Yeah.
And more often than not, it has nothing to do with
Yes.
me. But I used to feel like I did something wrong. Oh my God, what did I say? And then I'm looking at all our conversations. What did I say? How did it happen? Where did it go wrong? And all that would have to happen was take a day or two, like, hey, I noticed something shifted. Are we okay? And I would just love to have a conversation about that. How different than to just create assumptions and storylines and be like, I'm blocking you and it's over,
Yes. The ice queen. I love her. I love her. Some Elsa vibes. Yes. So can you like was it your relationship or your marriage that kind of threw you into like psychology and healing, or what was your kind of like turning point of like, I want to do this for other people?
Yeah. So do you want the long version or short?
I know. Whatever feels right for you.
Okay. I'll go in between. Since I was very young, very, very young, and I'm gonna open the door to my past trauma and like I'm gonna show a little bit of the behind the scenes of what's happened here. My mom used to come into my room when I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11, and she's like, let me tell you about how bad my marriage is. And just sit there and tell me. And I would literally just hold the space and listen as her daughter. And I was just like, okay, yeah, it sounds like you guys should get divorced.
Right.
I don't know. Like,
right.
I'm 10. I don't know what to tell you. And she would just cry and just be like, it's just your father's terrible. And, it was this whole thing. And so it was funny. It became a pattern. I wanted to save people. It was a hero's mindset. Since I was very young, because I was like, man, I don't want anyone to ever hurt the way I've hurt. And there's so much associated to that, sexual trauma that happened to me when I was very young, being feelings of abandonment and actual physical abandonment from my parents when I was very, very young for like years. I was in Guatemala while they were, trying to figure out their citizenship here in the States. Like, there's so much like what that story holds, but kind of became like this thing. So everybody in like school, anytime they had any kind of like, we need advice, they were like, go to Abigail, she's got it, like, don't even stress, she'll figure it out, and so I would get phone calls, at the house, because there wasn't cell phones and texts or social media. It's like, regular phone. And so they're calling the house, and mom was like, oh, here, it's one of your friends, and we'd be there for hours, like talking.
Oh my gosh.
Whatever does that happen. But my path took me down marketing and communications and broadcast and all of that stuff. And I was working with huge companies, and also ended up creating a marketing firm with my son's father, for a while. That became incredibly successful. We were working with companies like Hitachi and Synchrony Financial and Aerie and Canon and so all this stuff. And so it went down that path, very successful. But in 2019, I kind of hit a wall. In a variety of ways. I think I was stressed out because of what was going on with us financially. I was stressed out with what was going on with the lack of connection in my relationship. And it had been happening for a very long time. I was tired mentally, physically, emotionally, of trying to keep it all together all the time to make sure everybody was happy in my life. And I attempted suicide like 3 times. And all of them failed in November of 2019. It was right before Thanksgiving. And so that kind of created this whole shift of what are you doing and what's going on? What is this even worth? Like, what, is this marketing thing? Is this marriage? Is this anything? Really, like, you're going to take your life just because certain things of your life are not working. There was people obviously that stepped in and kind of assisted in that narrative, but I had this moment, what people like to call a coming to Jesus, you know what I mean, kind of thing, where I just sat with my whole life and I was like, nah, like my son deserves better. I deserve better. And so I just took time for me. I took a
Wow.
long season, of just taking care of me, having therapy, going into spaces where I was with like-minded individuals, reassessed my whole life, took out toxic patterns and habits. I stopped drinking. Like it was this whole thing that happened.
Wow.
And so I also got divorced, amidst all that. And so in 2021, I had this moment where I was like, well, and it started in 2020. I love assisting people. I love holding space. I realized like when I was doing all this marketing stuff, my favorite parts were always the meetings we had because I got to talk with the client and we were creating ideas and like working together. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's my favorite part. That's like my favorite part. And so energy light healing got started and all these individuals started to come to me naturally. Like I didn't put out any ads. Like I wasn't out there like promoting myself. People were finding me like naturally and then they were recommending me to people.
Just like childhood. Look at that beautiful string, right? Like when you opened yourself up for this space, it was like the energy came in. Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
It was beautiful. And then they were all like promoting me. Everybody was just so excited. And, they were like, let's do IG Lives. Because, COVID really was huge.
Right.
Let's do IG Lives. Let's do this. Let's do that. And people got to know me. And then my certification process started. And I was like, yeah, I want to take this seriously. I really want to dive in deep into this. And I fell back in love with this art, you know what I mean, of assistance, of holding space. That I had in high school, because I had a beautiful psychology teacher in high school too. Tell me the same thing. She's like, "You need to do this," and I'm like,
"Yeah, yes."
And then long story short, here we are. It's just been a beautiful revealance of something that's been in my heart for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's one of my, I guess, teachers. I don't know, mentors. I mean, he says like, the first time the universe talks to you, it's like in a whisper. And the second time it's a little bit louder. And the third time it's like yelling. And I've like experienced that also in, that rock bottom, or it has to get so worse for that shakeup, because we can be so trapped in our cycles of like, well, this is what I should do. This is working, or this is going the way on paper, the way it's supposed to be. And internally we're just dying inside.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times. That's so relatable. So many times where people have thought that I'm living like my best life and I'm just like, disintegrating within myself. The secret tears that you're holding with yourself, like, crying sessions in your room or in your car, in your walk-in closet, like whatever, you know what I mean? Like with your dog.
Yeah.
I feel like my dog is like absorbed my tears more. He's like right next to me, but like has absorbed my tears like more than anyone on this planet.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And it calls to us, like, right? So are we going to listen to that death for a rebirth? Or are we just going to keep dying, And the choice is up to you. There is no, I think, wrong or right choice at that point. Like, do I want everybody to live? Absolutely. But that's their choice to make. And it's a scary choice to make, because if I choose rebirth, what has to shift in my life externally and internally that causes disruption from the outside world,
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? When we enter in through that choice, oftentimes what we're removing out of our space will be people, that we've journeyed through. So the mourning has to come in for them.
Yeah.
Respecting, the space that we've journeyed through that with these individuals. But then it feels like freedom. It feels like freedom because you're just like, I didn't realize it was that heavy. I had no idea that this was actually anchoring me into spaces that I didn't even enjoy being in.
Right.
At least that's what occurred with me. I was just like, I am anchored here and I don't see any way out. And so I kept feeling that way. And it was a tornado that was like around me. And I'm just like, I just don't see any way out. I just don't see any way out. I have to be a good wife. I have to be a good mother.
Yeah.
I have to make my parents proud. I have to. And so I can't leave. I can't divorce. I can't abandon my child. I can't let my parents down. I have to stay here. And it was just like, no. Your choices. You're okay.
Yeah.
It's you're safe to choose yourself.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. But we build that own like mental prison, like those words can't, should, have to, need, like all of those things really. And this is, I think, where hypnotherapy, and I could be totally wrong, kind of comes in, because I feel like it's so mindset-y and so talking to subconscious, where we and the perception then that we have. If I believe all of these things, I can't, I shouldn't, I need to, or have to, our perception becomes that. Then we build our own mental prison, and then we do want to off ourselves, because that is the only way out. The only way out.
Got it.
Right?
You got it. That's it exactly. Yeah, and you're right. I have found, so I had several sessions in hypnotherapy, like where, people were actually putting me in that kind of state, right? Tapping into those theta waves, etc. And let me tell you, the stuff that was coming up to the surface, I didn't realize I thought that. I didn't even realize I believed in that. I didn't even realize like that was my concept of perspective on certain connections, on my life, on, there were moments like, because emotions erupt sometimes in that state. You can cry, and release and like all this stuff. And I remember I began saying over and over, and it wouldn't stop, I'm a bad mother. I'm a bad mother. I'm a bad mother. And it was just like coming out, like just woof. And so, it was beautiful for the practitioner that was holding me in that space to just be like, oh, okay, let's keep going further.
Yeah.
Let's move this way. Let's go this way. Let's really see why you feel this way or what's going on.
Yeah.
And the way that's done is so subtle. You don't even realize that you're opening these spaces up. But yeah, it's intense.
Oh. Can you walk me through like what a session would look like with you as far as like hypnotherapy? Like what can people expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always recommend to my clients the night before we're going to meet. And I have a tendency to do these closer to the afternoon, because that's when your body just begins to kind of wind down. You're not in the alertness of the morning time. So I like doing everything like post 3 p.m., whatever. And then also the rest of the evening, you could take time to just be with yourself and actually journey into sleep if you'd like to, But I tell my clients the night before, I was like, look, release the expectation of anything that's going to happen in your session, like at all. Like, don't try to create logic of, okay, well, it should be this, because then if it's not this, I'm going to be highly disappointed, or I did it wrong.
Yes.
It's me. I'm the problem.
Yes. Exactly.
And so the client comes on to the session, and we talk for about 30 to 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how many different components and avenues we're going to navigate through. I try to stick to 2 spaces that we're going to navigate in through.
Okay.
1 is usually my favorite, but 2,
if they're
3,
like connected,
I've done before, and it can work, but I feel like we're asking the brain to do too much, and it's a lot on the heart. Because just one can, I mean, there's so many threads and webs that we can navigate through. So depending on what it is, like I have some clients coming in just being like, just tell me if I'm going to be in a relationship.
So
and I'm like, it's not really what it's about. But I'm like, okay, well, and now I see where you're at. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But,
so beliefs around love, relationship is kind of where you would, start with that.
We can navigate all sorts of conversations and topics regarding finances, regarding your connections and relationships of any kind.
Yeah.
Talk about, family and ancestral lineage stuff.
Yeah.
We can talk about what form of limitations we may have created here in regards to maybe accessing certain things and letting certain things come into your life. Obviously my specialty and something that I started through, but I'm not really seeing a lot of these days, makes sense, is the sexual trauma stuff. So as someone that has navigated that, I was raped when I was young, and then like also had molestation stuff happen very, very young. So like all of that, I get it. But so we can navigate through that, very safely. But yeah, it just depends what it is that you're trying to focus in on. Then, I take a moment, I ask you to go use the restroom, get everything out of your system, and we go in through a practice that gets the body into a very relaxed state. And that takes, depending on the person, anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes.
Okay.
It can be very, very fast, depending on your willingness to surrender. and trust, right? That's very hard because the brain was like, I want to be in control. And it's like, I know, I get it.
Yes.
You are. Just take a breath. And then we go and journey. And man, we journey. And it's all regarding your life. I create scenarios, for you to journey in and through, depending on where you're looking at. I create rooms, that we can sit in and talk, and like where you talk to your subconscious.
I love that.
I create spaces where sometimes we're in a tree house because maybe that resonates with you. We're at the beach. We're at, your future home. We're at your childhood home. That's a very triggering experience sometimes, because I had a client, and this was one of the most interesting sessions I had. I hope this is okay, by the way.
Yeah.
But I took her to a space out of her willingness, right, to go to her childhood home, and a lot of trauma that happened there and whatnot. But we found her mother stored away in her closet, holding like her younger self.
Oh my God. I'm gonna cry.
She's saying this because you're talking and we're talking. You have the capacity to speak. So it's an interesting state because you feel like you're asleep, but you're also awake. It's like this one, we extend out that space when you're drifting down into sleep. And what I do is I just interrupt it and I lengthen it so that instead of it being just a couple of minutes, it becomes like 40 or an hour, and then, I bring you back into state of awakening. But we took her into her childhood home, and she found her mother in her closet holding her younger self. And then she found her sister in another bedroom. And then she found her stepfather in the basement.
Wow.
Like locked away.
Wow.
And so we had to navigate in through the symbolism of that later. But in the session, I'm just there. I'm just walking, and she's telling me everything. And I'm writing down in my notes, what some of these markers are and why they're presenting themselves. And then in the post up, after you wake up and you take your moment, go to the restroom, do what you got to do, we talk about it. And then we talk about the things that came up, and you remember everything, but the things that came up, and I'm like, do you understand like why your mom was in the closet? Do you understand the symbolism of that? And then we work through that. So it's a form of therapy that's very direct. It isn't just talk therapy where it takes a little longer for things to come up. And that's why it's not always, you got to be ready for it, because things reveal themselves very quickly.
Yeah.
I
love that. And I sometimes find in like my own practice, like wanting to talk to the subconscious a lot more, because it's like, okay, we're getting here, and like maybe this is it. And, I've had beautiful clients for years. So it just feels like, I'm like, maybe this is like a little bit of a missing piece. If we can kind of like jump in here a little bit and see how to unlock, because do you also like recreate the belief in the hypnotic state?
Yes, we do. That's the most exciting part.
Yeah.
Because while we're entering in and through spaces that are very painful and traumatic, we're taking the time, and this happened in that same session, right? We took a moment for her to sit with her younger self and speak into her brand new narratives, brand new story, and to really see what was going on and how this wasn't her fault. And how she's not deserving of this kind of treatment, and that she's safe now. And so she was able to take her younger self and leave all of this in her childhood home and take her to her current home, and like a home that was filled with a lot of beauty and like love and safety and all this stuff, and just be like, good, now your inner child lives here. She is no longer living here in this state of, madness and pain and like abuse. Like, you are now here, and so for her, everything in her life began to shift. And mind you, it was like, I want to say like 3 sessions were that fully transformed. And now it's so different what she's magnetizing into her life. You know what I mean? And the things that are coming into her life, because the belief is different. Right. Our subconscious is the director of the story that we're living in, and oftentimes we don't make that association because we're just living under the conscious state. Right. Well, no, I know I'm worthy, and I know I believe that I should get the good, I should be treated well. And then we're like chasing connections that are wishy-washy and inconsistent and breadcrumbing us.
Yes.
Abusing us, lying to us, like everything. It's like, well, something inside me still feels like this is as much as you're worthy of receiving.
Yes, exactly. And what's so interesting, I kind of always framed it of like our clients, it's like, yeah, you believe it here. And I'm pointing to my forehead. And then I moved down to the chest, like, but do you feel that,
Yeah.
which again is like belief, but I'm like the emotional girl. So I'm like, do you feel that in your body? Like, do you feel that you actually believe that? Or are you wired to be like, oh, yeah, of course, right? But it's that surface spot where it's like, you need to actually go deeper. Because if you believe these things, would your life actually look a little different or a lot different? And that's what I love about hypnotherapy is that it kind of goes straight to those beliefs that we kind of can like gloss over. And I mean, as a therapist, I'm like, analyzing shit and pulling hair and doing these things, but it is this other layer just as much as the body, right? Like the body, subconscious, heart, like they're also interconnected, and it just feels like another beautiful piece to really unlock so much in a short amount of time. That is just, I think, is so powerful.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. You're spot on. Spot on. I'm a heart girl too, man.
Yeah.
Me and my feelings are best friends.
Yes.
I think a lot of people were so curious why my journey went so fast, right? They were like, how did you go from being suicidal to being like, I'm living my best life and everything is like growing great and I'm mentally like so much healthier. And I'm like, hypnosis shifted everything in my life. There were so many other things that assisted too, mind you, I love the space, of Reiki and, like-minded connections and also, going into having other therapy sessions and all this other kind of stuff. I'm one that I love to explore the tapestry of health. Yeah. Right. And so, but hypnosis was the one that was the most direct. Yeah. The most direct. And let me tell you, there was a session that I did with my, the person that I journeyed with, and his name is Josh. And so Josh had me just sitting normally like this. Usually I have my clients laying down because we're going in a bit deeper. I don't want you to fall, but he had me sitting, and he had me like going into a space about a personal relationship that I had with someone. And he was like, okay, now we're going to navigate this, or I'm going to do this. And he had me feeling and tapping into my heart. And in 10 minutes, I understood what was going on. And I was like, I didn't even realize, oh my gosh. I was like, I had no idea. I was like, here's whatever money you want. I don't care. This was worth everything. I was like, take my whole paycheck. I don't care. Yeah. Like, it was just like such, and it shifted. It was like this golden nugget that was found. Yeah. And he found it like that. It was so fast. So fast. He was like, yeah, I knew I didn't need a lot of time for this one. He was like,
yeah. And even I think that speaks to, I mean, I don't know where you were on that journey, but I think that speaks to your own power of like unlocking that so easy. Like you're ready for it, and like to higher self or whatever, subconscious, whatever you want to call it, like, oh, I'm ready for the answer. Like, let's do this, And sometimes though we need someone to guide us into that and like have the parameters or the structure, the boundaries, like, no, girl, we're doing this today. Like, even if you really want to, it's like, let's do this together. And
100%.
Yeah.
And that's a mirrored response too. You know what I mean? When we are willing participants to allow, that's a big word, allowing, right? We allow ourselves to enter in through understanding ourselves better, healing, getting the answer, etc. Things begin to shift quicker because there's no resistance. Energy is in its best state when it's in fluid motion. And so if we hold in resistance out of the state of I have to be in control, there must be control, and that's a whole other subject of why that exists. But it creates so much stagnation. Yeah. So much stagnation. And so that occurred in 2021. And so I was just at my depth where I was like, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Yes. I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And so I'm looking for the remedy because I Yes. And so when all of these things started to come into my field, it was fast moving because I was a very willing participant. Yes. Yes. I have been thirsty for a long time. I was like, just give me all the water.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually had, and this guy, Kevin, he does a emotion code. He's going to be on the podcast, but I actually had this happen to me recently in the form of psychosomatic pain, like very intense, like labor pain and growing
Yes.
pain and stomach pain. And it was the craziest thing. I'll talk about more, but like it was almost like we went through like a little bit of beliefs and like clearing so much trauma. And it was like, I will do anything to get rid of this pain right now. What is the next thing? Okay, parents divorce. Okay, what is the next thing? Miscarriage. Okay, what is the next thing? Sexual assault. Okay, what is the next thing? It's like relationship mistrust, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't care. It was like warrior, but it was like also desperation of like, I need to relieve this pain. A little bit of rock bottom, but more of like my nervous system was like, girl, you ready? Because ready or not, here it comes. And that willingness again, out of like wanting to relieve the pain, but that quickness, like I mean, this happened twice last week for like 8 hours. It was extreme, but I feel so much clear. I feel so grounded. I feel so thankful. I mean, I could cry about it now, like, and it was such a sped up process that I'm like, did that happen? What actually happened? But it was that, again, willingness. I think I'm talking in circles now because it happened so recently, but I'm just amazed. I'm just like, wow, like I did that because I chose to, and my body was leading me there. And when you can listen to them, what clarity, again, I get so emotional about it, like what you can become on the other side of that is like so beautiful. I like to cry a lot on this podcast.
I do too. Thank goodness. I found my kin. I found a like-minded. Let me tell you, yeah. All of that. It's so funny. We're at a very similar wavelength. I've been working with two practitioners for the last 3 weeks now or so. But the last session that I had with her, with one of them, 2 days ago, it's funny. I just saw them back to back. I saw one of them yesterday, but the one 2 days ago, we were releasing anger and grief that I realized I had stored, and I'm like screaming and crying, and like everything is coming out of me. Tears, snot, like everything is just like on the floor. And I was like, I thought it was just super, super happy. Like, I don't get what's going on. It's like, yeah, but you're holding these pockets in your kidneys, and you're holding this in your liver, and you're holding this in your lungs. Mind you, I've been navigating through a lot of that. But like, you're holding like stuff in your gut. You're holding tension in your shoulders. That was yesterday. I was releasing that from my shoulders and my arms and my joints and stuff. Oh my gosh.
The weight of the world. Yep.
I don't think that people who haven't fully entered in through this just yet. So if this is you and you're listening to this may feel or sound very foreign, but a lot of people don't understand the heaviness that they've been carrying for so long until they remove even like a percentage of that, and they begin to feel lighter. Yeah. And they're like, so this is what normal starts to feel like this is what quote unquote normal, like, begins to look like. When all of a sudden crying is not only cathartic, but then it's elevating you to something so different. It's propelling you, into a different state of your experience, of your life. You begin to witness why anger served. You begin to witness why sadness invited itself to your front door. And why it made itself a welcome guest that sometimes lasted for years, decades. And it would peek its head out whenever it got hungry, and depression, was like a welcome friend with that too, and anxiety, as well. And these are the things that we begin to feel as like a shortness of breath, and we begin to feel almost like tired and exhaustion, and we begin to feel, like, why am I coming out with these emotional outbursts, and like not understanding, that this is the baggage, right? This is the internal baggage that we often carry with ourselves. And it can last a lifetime, if you're unwilling to speak with it. Not even eliminate it and kick it out, because I think that's a big thing too, right? I feel like I've seen clients, and I myself was that too, come in and just be like, just remove it. Just take it, make it go away. And the practitioner sat with me. I was like, how about we just talk to it? And how about we just talk to you? Because sadness is you, and anger is you, and frustration is you, and all of this is you. But you get to forgive yourself here, and you get to witness your ugly here, and love yourself through ugliness here. And you get to sit with the mess just for a moment, just let it be messy. It's okay
Yeah.
to be messy. Let it be messy. And just sit here with yourself and show yourself so much love and pour buckets and buckets of love here, and then, we're not letting it go. We're letting it just sort of become something different.
Yeah.
It changes its face.
Yeah.
It changes its name. And then it becomes like a passenger on our ride that is actually assisting us,
Yeah.
in a variety of ways. But you wouldn't know that unless your willingness, allowing, to enter in through those spaces of depth. That is the intimacy of self, right? You're into me, see. You're seeing into self in the deepest form. Surface is great.
Yeah.
It's sugar. It's candy.
Yeah.
It doesn't last. It's not
sustainable.
It's not nourishing enough. It satisfies for a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. It's not long lasting. But when you're going into the depth and you're allowing yourself to cry and to break and to hurt and to feel and to just sit, man, that's a different conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautiful. Abigail, we met one time in passing, and it's hard to know someone at depth, but I was like, Abigail, just come on the podcast because we're gonna vibe real good. And we already are, and I love it. So it's just so good. But I would love to know, how can people find you? What are you doing? Tell us all the things. How can people work with you?
Yeah, for sure. So currently, for now, very soon, my website's going to be completely redone, but right now it's under. You can find me on all social media platforms. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Threads. You can find me on YouTube. I have a lot of YouTube helpful videos on there if you want to check them out. I'm on TikTok, and I post a lot of helpful videos and tips on that too, under the name Energy Light Healing.
Beautiful.
So come find me, come connect, and different ways that you can journey are actually pretty simple. I have a link in every single thing, so you can follow that. But I have one-on-one personal sessions that we can do that, we can just dive into what's going on. Then if it interests you, we can dive into a hypnotherapy session, and those are about 3 to 4 hours long. And so we do journey in quite depth and length with that one.
Are those
I also
virtual?
have a group container. What now?
Are those virtual or in person?
Both. So
Great.
I can offer them in person, which are always my favorite, but we can do virtual because I do have a lot of clients that are coming to me from Europe, and they're coming from the East Coast and all this stuff. So
I love
thank
it.
goodness for technology,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because you're in LA, right? You're based in LA. Okay.
Yeah, based in LA, Southern California.
Yeah.
So if you're here, connect.
Yeah.
But and then I have a group container that's called Ethereal to Earthly. And this is a group container unlike any that I've put on before. But we're going to be journeying for about 8 weeks. And we're going to be doing so in group form, but also individualized assistance. And so I'm including the modality of both. Because what I find is that, you can journey in group and then you're kind of left to your own devices in between. And you're like, I don't know what's going on. I want to be there in assistance of you, as a lot of this is coming up to the surface. But through this program, we're going to be navigating through a lot of the things that we spoke about on this podcast. What are those spaces of self? Because I feel like in the wellness and even spiritual, especially spiritual communities, we have a tendency to go into escapism and also bypassing and also disassociation. And so we have a tendency to go into these spaces of like, I'm entering in through the astral and the quantum, and I'm shifting realities, and I'm manifesting, and doing all of this stuff, and I'm floating on a cloud and pooping rainbows forever.
Yep.
Like, awesome.
Yes, right.
Now, how does that work in your day-to-day life when you are a single mom that is hurting for money and trying to figure out where your next meal is going to come from and how to pay for your car?
Yeah.
Or, you're in a relationship. Maybe you're very successful, but you're in a relationship that is stuck. Or maybe everything in your life is flowing perfectly, but there's things in your mind that are just coming in, and you're navigating through depression and anxiety and all of these different things that are very real things.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big believer that we're here living a very human experience.
All the things.
We are energy and we're soul, but we're very, very human. We have a body for that reason, and feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
And so this program kind of brings and bridges the gap of both of those. And how do they dance together? How can they be in a relationship together and work together? We're not trying to remove one or castigate or vilify any aspect of that. We're trying to bring them into a happy marriage. So that they can co-create together.
I love that. I think, what I've seen in the mental health world and obviously the spiritual world on social media, which makes sense, like on marketing, there's just these snippets of like, manifest this by this, right? Or here's your anxious thoughts, get rid of this, right? And what I think you and I both do is you can't just take those snippets and then run with it. Like if you want the actual change, if you want the actual depth, like you got to go deeper. And there's so many people like you to facilitate that. And so I just want to like, if anyone's listening, like if you're manifesting and it's not working and journaling and doing all the things, like go deeper, deeper. And this is your invitation to do that. Because that's where the real change is. It's not going to be found on a 50-second clip on Instagram, you know?
Snap cup. Yes, girl. Yes. Listen, I you know what happened is I went through that journey, right, very quickly as you've heard. But like I started to feel bad about myself. I started to feel terrible because I was just like, what's not happening for me? And they kept telling me, well, yeah, it's because you're not believing it enough, or you're not feeling it enough, or you're not this, or you're not this enough. And I'm just like, well, aren't we just amplifying my trauma from childhood?
Yes,
like
that
just
I'm not
so
enough.
much more. I'm tired of being I'm tired of people telling me that I'm not doing enough. I'm like, you know what? Guess what? Not only am I enough, I'm incredible.
Yeah.
And I am amazing, exactly where I'm at. And that doesn't mean that life has to look a particular kind of way in order for me to believe that. And so a lot of what this program focuses on, a lot of what my work focuses on is to coming into spaces of acceptance, you know, because in that space of acceptance, then we can flow. Yeah. Because then the control isn't there. I got to make something happen and fix it. And I got to rework it and rewire it so that it looks perfect. There's no such thing, first of all. And we're allowed to take our time. You know, we're allowed to go at our own pace and to create a journey that feels good for us. Yeah. However that looks.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I love it. BFFs forever.
It happened, folks.
So fun.
It happened. You guys saw it. You guys were witness to it.
Abigail, thank you so much for coming on. For everyone that's listening, we'll have all that information in the show notes. Go follow her, Energy Light Healing. And we're just so excited. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. This was such a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you. This was amazing.
All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks again for listening to our show. We're so grateful for you being a part of the How We Get Thru community. If you're needing more support, you can check out the How We Get Thru app and get a 7-day free trial. And that's available for Apple or Android. Thanks so much again. We'll see you next time.